Here is the one thing that most people never figure out. We all think that we're making decisions in our everyday lives, but what we're really doing is we are executing protective behaviors that are shaped by three things. The first is a fear of rejection. The second is learned helplessness. Third is shame-based programming. When you learn profiling, this shows up in language and posture and body language and tone and pacing and where they're looking, their eye movement, even their breath. And if you don't know how to detect this stuff, you're going to waste a lot of your life arguing with people's masks instead of speaking to their operating system. In sales, you're selling to the mask instead of the person behind it. In this influence thing, you're arguing and trying to persuade or influence a mask instead of the actual human. Behavior is downstream from unexamined fear. So you're not removing that fear with logic. And this is the approach of like 80 to 90% of approved psychotherapy. And this is where most influence truly fails. And I've studied this stuff for 25 years of my life, obsessed with it. To this day, I'm obsessed with it. And most of the time, our influence to other people doesn't land because one of 6 behavioral systems is not really online. And the first is focus. If they're distracted, nothing gets in, no matter how good your sales script is or your technique is, it doesn't get in. You regain focus through novelty and pattern interruption and having authority or being able to calibrate authority. The second one is openness. If somebody is fully armored up, everything bounces off. And you open a person using pacing and storytelling and warmth and vulnerability. And 3 is connection. If they don't feel seen, there's no resonance that's happening there. You build connection through recognition of need, mirroring that person's values, but this is also gained through true and genuine connection, being more interested than interesting. And the fourth one is suggestibility. If they're rigid, nothing is going to stick. And we increase suggestibility through rhythm and authority and sometimes confusion. So number 5 is compliance. So if they're not acting on something, they're never going to convert. You escalate through a whole bunch of physical movements and all kinds of techniques to do that. And then the 6th is expectancy. And the definition of expectancy when it comes to NCI is if they're not hungry for something coming up next, the frame of the interaction is going to collapse. Every person you work with has one of these things or 3 of them turned off, and your job is to find it and bring it back online. And it's not because they're agreeing with you. You're not convincing them and then getting to some kind of agreement. It's because they're neurologically aligned to receive exactly what you're giving. What is really happening when everything works, when influence really works? The person that you're talking to starts responding in ways that they can't truly explain. They relax into a bunch of stuff that they've never said out loud before. They follow signals in themselves that they've never obeyed before. They agree with a whole bunch of truths that feel familiar, but like something that they forgot. So that's kind of a little bit of a behavioral exorcism that's happening. And we're not doing it with a bunch of holy water and fire and yelling and screaming. This is why it feels like somebody wakes up around you. And the reason is because you're not convincing people anymore in your life. They just kind of get more open. They get cleared, so to speak. They stop blinking as much. They breathe a little bit deeper without even realizing that they're doing it. Their language shifts from something that's literal to something that's visceral. Their body starts doing things that mirror your body, which hopefully is more open. And finally, and most importantly, when you see this shift, you see a person stop performing. And that is the key. But then one thing happens almost every single time. They will test you to see if it's real. And if you flinch, the game is over. So what that means is that this isn't about being a better communicator. which you'll hear from just about everybody. It's about being the kind of person who can walk into a conversation and end a cycle that someone's been stuck in for 20 years and do that in about 3.5 minutes. And what most people think all this stuff is about, it's charisma. Like, I need to be charismatic. I need to be cool. I need to be a badass. I need people to like me. And that's what most people think. You don't need charisma. You need precision. Biggest of all, you need to be unmoved by the mask in front of you. You need to start seeing the people behind it. Go out, find all the spots. You don't have to do any big changes in your behavior, but I want you to find the spots where you're accidentally speaking to somebody's mask instead of the person that's wearing the mask. If I speak to the mask, I get results from the mask. If I speak to the human, then I get results from that human. Really good persuasion and influence makes people feel like they're waking up, not making a decision. And there's a big difference there. And that happens very few times in our lives when we can help somebody wake up. We're not like exposing the simulation. We're helping them get out of a fear loop. That's the sleep. The sleep is not like commercials and advertising and all the other crap that we talk about all the time. The sleep is the fear loop that we're living in from some bullshit that happened in like 3rd or 4th grade. And good persuasion gets to the person that's behind that. And then when they start freaking out, reminds them that it's safe. Like, we are not in 3rd grade anymore. Those are stories and things that you created when you were a kid to keep a kid safe. That's all I'm going to leave you with.